I was probably 8 years old the first time a close friend tried to convince me to believe in God. We were on the school bus together. If God isn't real, she said, there's no harm in believing anyway. But if God is real, then my Unitarian refusal to believe the correct way would send me straight to hell. So wouldn't the smart, logical thing be to drop my religion and switch to hers? And I imagine if I asked for a show of hands, I would not be alone in having had this type of conversation at some point in our lives. So when I was required in my seminary studies to take a Christian theology course, part of me expected to find more of that energy in the text we studied. Faithful believers trying to convince me that they were right and I was wrong. And instead, what I found was uncertain and doubting thinkers doing their best to make sense of their world and their convictions. Anselm of Canterbury, a theologian born in Italy in the year 1033, was my personal favorite of these thinkers. As a Benedictine monk, Anselm studied Greek philosophy alongside the Bible, and he came to understand reason and logic as fundamental to God's perfect plan for the universe. He wanted to find a single logical argument that would prove God really exists. It's a very ambitious goal. But what I want to talk about isn't what Anselm concludes, but how he enters into this project of proving God, proving what he believes. Because he does so humbly and so earnestly and full of questions, rather than addressing his arguments to an opponent, some stubborn non-believer he has to convince. Anselm offers a type of argument that's more like contemplative prayer than public debate. Growing up in the United States, as I did, made me very familiar with the kind of theological argumentation that frames skepticism as the mortal enemy of belief that must be battled against and crushed to protect one's faith. And that framing is really bought into on all sides, right? I came of age during the era of, YouTube videos with titles like "Atheist Destroys Believer with Facts and Logic." Not to mention the blockbuster success of the God's Not Dead film franchise, in which a brave Christian college student stands up to his evil atheist professor. When that's what you're surrounded by, there's something almost shockingly subversive about the quiet questioning in older Christian texts. Anselm, in his writing, said, "God, if you are everywhere, why do I not see you? If you are everywhere, why do I not see you? Why do I not feel your presence?" Those are not the words of someone performing absolute certainty for an audience. That's a sincere question about the unavailability of God. Anselm feels so uncertain he almost gives up his life's work. He writes, "I decided to stop looking for something that was impossible to find. But then, one day, I eagerly embraced the doubt I had been taking such pains to drive away. And ultimately, this doubt and sincere confusion don't threaten Anselm's relationship to his God, but drive him to pursue greater knowledge of it." In his writings, he says he's seeking to understand what he believes, seeking to understand what he believes. So belief comes first. He's not undecided. He's not trying to figure out what he should believe. He believes. He already believes. He has put his faith in his God at a gut level. And he just wants to better understand the why and how of that commitment that he feels. This is what he calls faith-seeking understanding. I admit, when it comes to the existence of God, I can't relate to Anselm. But I know that I, too, have bone-deep, gut-level commitments. Belief in the inherent value of life on this planet, faith in the possibility of mutual flourishing, interdependence. And while I hope that I can defend these beliefs with logic and facts, back them up, I know that I didn't logic myself into them. They came first. They arise from something other than pure reason. We UUs, I find, are much more likely to think of ourselves as starting with reason rather than starting with belief, starting with analysis and discussion and thought, and only then carefully choosing to believe what we feel can be solidly justified and explained. Many come to this faith precisely because it allows for reason to inform belief in really healing, liberating ways. But today I want us to consider what faith-seeking understanding might mean in a UU context. Many of us got here because we were willing to question beliefs that didn't make sense to us. That's an important step on many journeys. But the next step might be to question beliefs that do make sense to us. What do you have a type of faith in? This could be a different answer for all of us. What is something you trust and value at your core, something you find you must believe is true? Call something to mind if you can. Maybe you believe in free will, or believe it's worthwhile to alleviate suffering. You might believe in the power of intuition, or believe that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. What is something you rely on that you know deep inside to be true? We each have faith. And from there, how might we seek understanding? What would it take to question and defend that faith in the inward, contemplative way that Anselm did centuries ago? What would it be like to find the part of yourself that's still unconvinced, still confused, still hoping for better proof of that truth that is so core? The part that says, maybe free will is only a neurological illusion. The part that asks, on the scale of the universe, does our suffering matter? Or what does it really mean for each person to have inherent worth? This is Anselm admitting, God, if you are everywhere, why do I not see you? What would it be like to find that doubt in your own belief? And rather than avoiding it or shoving it down, actually have a conversation with it. Show it your evidence. Give it your best shot at logically explaining what you believe to be true and why. We can allow ourselves the relief of admitting that there are reasons to be uncertain about our most certain core truths. There can be a reason to be uncertain, and you might still feel certainty. Faith need not fear understanding. I'm going to pause and leave some silence in which that internal conversation might begin for each of us. Let's just breathe together. What is something you believe deeply to be true? And what doubts might still challenge that belief? This isn't a conversation that can happen over the course of one Sunday, over the course of one service. It's a practice, like any other spiritual practice. It's a commitment to ongoing internal debate. And it's a practice that isn't about gathering argumentative ammo to win your next contentious exchange with an in-law or a colleague. It's about your understanding of some of your deepest truths. Proving ourselves right isn't the point. Proving ourselves right isn't the point, but in trying to prove, the process, trying to argue on behalf of your profound truths, we give them a sacred sort of attention. The theme this month here at First is discerning truth. right? This commitment to seeking truth is part of Unitarian Universalism's fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. But how does one discern and keep discerning over a lifetime? Every single person here has already been on a long journey. Whether you grew up UU or non-religious or moved through one of the many different faith communities that are represented in a space like this, it can be such a relief to finally land here. And we are glad that you did. But this isn't the end point of anything. In fact, now that you are here, another journey can finally begin in earnest. Now that no one is giving you a list of approved beliefs, it's up to you to look inward and find those lists that exist within yourself. And as you find those bedrock beliefs, whatever it is you have faith in, it is up to you to poke and prod at them, to question, to seek understanding. And in doing so, to grow in spiritual depth and rootedness. And it's up to all of us, this community, to support and encourage one another in seeking this deeper understanding, knowing that there is value in, as Anselm says, raising our minds to contemplation. Contemporary arguments over belief and logic and religion will still play out on a public stage fraught with hostility and political baggage. But this voice from another age, this centuries-old thinker, reminds us that admitting doubt, being confused, wishing for more proof, is not a weakness. It's a part of having faith. The world has forgotten that argument, doubt, logic can be thoughtful, prayerful practice. The certainty of faith is allowed to include the challenge and ambiguity of understanding. So may we, each of us today, begin to see our own pathways into that spiritual practice of considering and defending our values. May we go forth willing to understand the truths we already believe, willing to embrace ambiguity, and joyful in the knowledge that our faith and our doubt will together raise us up to the contemplation of great things. May it be so, and amen.